So yesterday was the hottest August day in Phoenix on record, and that's where I sit. And this morning I read two stories about the dire situation for water, one relating to mining and the other because of drought. So I want to say hello and welcome and thank you, starting with thank yous, because you are all champions who drive solutions every day on these big issues, on climate, the environment, and the challenges that humanity faces. So thank you so much for being here. I'm Rhonda Bannard, and I'm the founder and executive director of Earth Gives. And I want to tell you a little bit about us and what we're here for, because some of you have registered for the Giving Initiative, and others of you are still curious about what this is all about. So I want to tell you a little bit about it, and we have a pretty packed agenda. So let me just jump in and share some slides and get this going. And so Earth Gives is a nationwide giving initiative meant to boost environmental philanthropy beyond just 2%, where it is stuck. And environmental justice is stuck at just 0.5%. So our goal is to help change that and to get more people identifying as Earth givers. And so we established ourselves as a 501c3, and our signature event is a nationwide giving day specifically for climate and environmental action. And that's what we're all about. So we can't do it alone. We have to do it collectively. This is about building community, and this is about inviting other folks in. So we're thrilled that you are here. This is our third website for the Giving Day Initiative. The first one was on registration, the second on peer-to-peer and company giving. Those recordings should be up at earthgives.org. And this final one is on marketing and messaging and outreach. My background is in communications and marketing, and we do also have a wonderful guest here today, Eric Kaplan with Kaplan Communications, who's going to share a little bit more about media and PR and those pieces of it. And I also want to give a shout out to our Mobilize Green, wonderful intern, Trinity Meggett Johnson, based in Baltimore. And we really appreciate having her support today. So fast track for the agenda today. I just told you a little bit about Earth Gives. I'm going to share about deadlines and second step registration. I'm going to review real quickly the tools of peer-to-peer and company giving, and then we're going to dig in to messaging and marketing, show off a few things from our toolkit that's still in the works, and then dig into any questions that you may have. And if you want, we will stay on, Eric and I, to answer and workshop any ideas or things that you might be struggling with. So key deadlines. Please, please, please register today if you can. It takes 15 minutes and it brings other people. You know, once the first person at a party shows up and then the second person, then it becomes a party and it grows. So it's really important that if you are considering activating, to please do as soon as you can. The registration deadline is August 22nd. So you've got 2 weeks from today. And let me go back to registration for a second. There are some of you that are sort of stuck in the void in the back end. If you did the first part and were approved, you should have received an email to then finish 3 more questions, and then your profile goes live. Until your profile goes live, you cannot add any peer-to-peer or company giving, and you will not receive any toolkit options. There are going to be several dates that we're sending out toolkit tools for you, and they will include a bunch of links for you to go to and modify the ads, drop in your logo, all that good stuff. The countdown to the kickoff of early giving starts on August 26th. Early giving begins on September 5th, which is when the entire website changes over, shuts down from being able to take anyone in, and then just has the security to take in donations for you. And then early giving runs through the big day, the big crescendo on October 7th, which is Earth Gives Day. We also want you to make note of 4 power hours. Educating donors and doers are critically important. And because we are about individual giving, this is very much about individual actions people can take on a variety of topics. And as you can see here, we have a diverse array of topics, and some of you on the call are actually some of our presenters. Woohoo! Excited for that. So it's given and presenting nonprofits as the experts on these topics to the public. We do the asking and invite everyone to go to the website to give and shop around. So everything is about a network effect when it comes to use of a Giving Day platform. It's about getting friends and family and supporters and volunteers to help you reach out to potential new donors, to volunteers, to members, whatever you're seeking, whatever your sort of structure of your nonprofit. That's what this is about. So if you choose to use these tools, they are optional, but you can use peer-to-peer and company giving pages. They are free. They take 5 minutes to set up, and there is no limit. Nonprofits can use a peer-to-peer page to focus on a specific program if you want to do that. Like, I'm not sure somebody from UCSD is on here, but Scripps was looking at getting focusing on their polar work up in the polar regions to invest in that work. And so that you can choose to focus on a specific thing or do that highlighted through a peer-to-peer page. You can involve your board. We have had nonprofits that set up board peer-to-peer pages and sent them the email and the login for them, and they get that URL and then they get to share it out with their friends and family. So you can see how the network effect happens, but it all starts with your profile page and then networks out through peer-to-peer. And new this year is company giving. So company giving is the same thing, but for consultants or vendors or companies who find a benefit and can reach a completely different audience than you have. And don't limit your thinking. Local coffee shops where you all meet might do the very same for you because you frequent them. So go really small and then think larger as well. Peer-to-peer setup is super easy. You basically log in, you create an account, as you can see here with create account right in the middle. They create a password, and then the end result is its own page. As you can see here, Trinity set up in just a few minutes, a Native Pollinators for Life page. She uploaded a photo, she wrote a little copy, and then she will use that URL to share to her friends and family to bring in donations for whatever organization she chooses. In this instance, she chose Earth Gives, but she can change that and adopt another nonprofit. Company giving pages are the same. So you can see here kind of an example of Climate Social. You can send your folks to earthgives.org/company giving. And it's just that same process, name and email. They can upload some photos, videos, content, whatever serves them. And this is another example of company givers that we are recruiting as well to serve all of you. Once they are set up, they can choose to adopt nonprofits, or they can just send folks in to give and shop around. So you can make your case for why companies should set up and adopt you. Okay, so a couple miscellaneous things. We have matching dollars, and you can have matching dollars. That's actually one of the questions in the second step of registration. It says, do you have matching dollars? Do you want to set a goal? And I think there's a third question. So we have matching dollars, so you need to be on the lookout throughout the campaign when we tell you, hey, we've got a match going during this time, and the first 10 donors that make a donation that match $100 will get an additional $100. And then we upload that money on the back end of the site. So you get an additional $100. So keep a lookout for that. We're also playing with EcoBoost Power Hours, small companies giving small sums of money that can boost giving and be catalytic in nature for you to get money during that specific time. The prize fund are additional dollars that nonprofits can win on top of what they raise. So this is based on your budget size. So small compete against small, medium, and large for most donors or most dollars. We've also been able to do gifts for most successful fundraiser and most creative posts that we see out there. And in case you didn't know, there is Green Them All. So when donors check out, there is a fund that says, will you invest in a fund that is shared with all of the nonprofits participating? The default is $20, but it goes up from there. So those nonprofits that are participating and active will share in that fund. And we will also be promoting that just as a quick sort of donation hit for a lot of folks that might want to give. We're also, and Trinity is helping, recruit non-traditional influencers that might give shout outs for the campaign throughout the campaign. So keep a lookout for those. Now we're going to get into the marketing side of it. This is all about building community, a community of people who come together to invest in our families, in our friends, and our futures. This is what we're trying to do. So the big idea of Earth Gives is really built around this idea of, I feel like I'm part of a community. We all know that we're in a loneliness crisis, we're in trauma, we're concerned, but we're trying to change that and say, we want to invite you in. This matters, come be part of the community, and to literally embrace an identity that says, I am an Earth Giver, so that in all of my actions throughout my day, throughout my life, I do things that are in alignment with the environment and with our futures. So as you're going to see from some of our messaging and what you would receive in our toolkit is that this is not about doom and gloom. This is about coming to people with possibilities and solutions. One of my favorite quotes is from Maya Angelou. This is about how you make people feel. So through this campaign, we want to make people feel joy and opportunity and possibilities, that the solutions that you make possible for them. So that's the sort of ethos that we're embracing. And there's no way that I can get into a marketing or comms conversation without evoking one of my heroes, and that is Seth Godin. If you haven't read any of his books, he's got about 20 of them, including the Carbon Almanac, which is a huge inspiration around Earth Gives as well. People like us do things like that. This is a values statement. We want people to do these things. We want them to embrace that idea, and we want them to know that we see them, we see their actions, and we invite them to even do more. So it's accretive to what they do and how they act and who they are. So here's a few more nitty-gritty pieces on your outreach plans. This is about empowering people and prioritizing connections. So language like welcome, we're inviting you, join us, give and invest in what we're doing, a very specific and personal investment request is shown based on some research from a peer-to-peer webinar I attended recently, shows that people will invest in people. You know, people do business with people that they know. And so the more that you can personalize it and show that there's this whole team behind this impact, and they're coming to work every day doing this work on your behalf, invest in us, and we will drive this work forward. Being part of something bigger. This is very huge and very specific. So day in and day out, you're raising money for your own organization. But when you become part of Earth Gives 2025, you're part of something much bigger. And that does something to people's actions and how they might look at you. So you can optimize for being part of something bigger. Giving Tuesday has a statistic. 52% of people give on Giving Tuesday because everybody else is doing it. So that's the issue of FOMO. So together, amplifying our voices brings more people in. And a perfect example of that is Jack. Jack Hansen, he's the executive director of Run on Climate Education Fund. He had a ton of friends in his community, and they wouldn't give to his organization. When he became part of Earth Gives, he had dozens of new donors join. So there is an opportunity to leverage that. Focus on what you make possible. And of course, stories rule the day. Always, always tell a story. So as it relates to storytelling, I want to talk about your profiles. And what I mean by your profile is your mini page on the Earth Gives platform. That's your profile, okay? Because you're part of something bigger, we need you to write your copy in a way that appeals to a broader audience. While we know some of you are going to be very localized, there's still people who may have visited your state, your community, your park, your this, your that you can appeal to others. We want you to appeal to that broader audience. This is what we make possible and how, we're all interconnected. Don't start out by saying we're a 501c3. If you're on the platform, you are a 501c3. So get into the story. Talk about what you're making personal. Talk about what solutions that you're driving. When you invest in us, we make this possible. So think about a different way of writing on your profile to a national and potentially even global audience. Appeal to kitchen table logic. Now, what that means is, I can't imagine that you all aren't thinking about this these days, is the tariff story. How is that impacting people in their grocery spending, in their energy bills, and all the associated things? So many of you work in areas that actually work to lower energy prices, to reduce food waste, improve the soil, clean up a river, or fight against chemicals and toxins that then cost us more in our healthcare and in cleanup and all of those things. So relating to people in a very sort of personal impact message is definitely an invitation that we ask you to take. The toolkit, it's going to be packed. It has everything. We try to put in the work to make this as turnkey as possible. So you can grab what you need, use it, not use it, modify it, not modify it, and go and share it out there. So we have quick tips. We have a calendar step by step. Actually, there was Lori, I don't know if you're on here, but Lori from SRAG said, could I have a calendar? So I shared her a calendar and she says, yes, this is perfect. Well, we turned it into a step-by-step this week, like as in next week. These are 3 things that you can do. Here's the next week. These are 3 things that you can do. So it literally sort of walks you through what you want to do, what you choose to do as you participate in Earth Gives Day. We give you peer-to-peer and company giving recruitment emails, including links for people to sign up. We give you copy for emails that you can integrate in ongoing emails, press release templates, email signatures, tons of graphics for campaign promotion with and without your logo. We give you countdown, power hours, like I said, promotional opportunities for people to join you, the Eco Power Boost, social media platform headers, and of course, tons of content that you can work with and modify. So it's very packed. So now I'm going to just tease out a few things that you might see. So here's an example of 2 social media banners that you can use. So what fits you? You can take it and get it up on your LinkedIn, Facebook banners as the countdown begins to show that you're part of this bigger thing. We've also I'm running through these pretty fast. We're going to get to Eric in a second. Here's an example of some of these ads. We're still working them. There's a lot of copy, a lot of less, some positioning that needs to change, but we're playing off the idea of freedom, of possibilities, of imagining. So again, getting in people's minds the idea of solutions. And you can see in these gray boxes here that that's where you drop in your logo. So you get the link, you go to the ads, you grab what you want. There's going to be tons of different pictures based on your missions, and drop in your logo. And then every time that you share a social media post or put this in an email or whatever, you include your direct profile URL. Here's an example of a countdown to September 5th to launch giving, and a countdown to October 7th to create a sense of urgency and get people. And do know that there's a lot of donations that trickle in after October 7th. So we keep the platform open and let those donations trickle in. We also keep the platform open for Giving Tuesday and end of year in case anyone wants to come back and repeat and use this platform for your nonprofit. And we are playing off of words like love, which has been shown by global research that the idea of love for one another and love for our planet really plays importantly. So these are the kinds of ads that you're going to be able to play with, including these. So we're playing off of some with this coffee ad. It's this idea of like, do you want your coffee in the morning? Well, this is what's happening with coffee. So when you invest in us, you know, you invest in people who are on the front lines trying to make sure your coffee doesn't skyrocket and it's still available for you. And then something with the clock ticking and time being of urgency. So I know I haven't even taken a breath, but you can begin your journey by reviewing the calendar, deciding on ideas that you want to share, integrate into what you are already doing. If you're having a volunteer cleanup, if you're having a happy hour, if you're having an employee meeting, if you're having a conference, which I know there's a lot of conferences in September and early October, you can invite everyone to take out their phone and go to your URL, put the QR code on the screen, and invite people to make a donation on the spot. You can tag what is happening with like New York Climate Week, Third Act Sunday. Build your cadence. Are you going to start on September 5th, or are you going to and slowly build up? Are you going to adopt a couple weeks, the final week, whatever makes sense for you and what you have the ability to do? That's what we invite you to sort of think about. As soon as you can, make that list of people you want to invite to be part of peer-to-peer and company giving, and send that out. Invite them to create their page. It takes 5 minutes. And then you have the content to remind them, hey, thanks for promoting your page. We're gathering for a power hour. You can promote this power hour and promote giving to us. Here's the copy to do that with. Weekly reminders. You can even create a contest and have a contest for those who are the most successful. It could be something like a lunch with your executive director, some swag that you have, or whatever it might be. It's totally up to you. Integrate copy where it makes sense. You'll get the Earth Gives logo. You can put that on your website and have a direct link to your profile page to make donations. You can put it in staff email signatures. Wherever it makes sense for you, you're going to have the communication to be able to do that. Change your social media headers, utilize the countdowns, choose the graphics that work for you, promote the power hours, and tag us. Follow Earth Gives and tag us when you post, because we are going to do our best to keep reposting and really ramp up some attention to what you all are participating in. And have fun. This is an opportunity for team building, volunteer building, board building, all those kinds of things. It's a really fun opportunity. And with a click of a button, they can share your page and write, I'm on this board, please invest in us. Here's where you give. It's that simple. Now I get to take a rest and introduce you to Eric discipline. And it's, I will say that LinkedIn is a great way to make good friends. And Eric has become one of those people. He is a former journalist and subject matter expert in clean energy, climate action, environmental protection, and social justice. He founded Kaplan Communications back in 2004, and ever since then has been helping shape messages that resonate with the movable middle. So this is now Eric's time to talk all about PR and media, and we'll go from there. Eric.
Wow. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. It's great to be with all of you. And I want to just start by thanking you for your time, your attention. I'm going to be really short and sweet, but my whole thing is get to the Q&A. So I want to give you what I know, and welcome your input and your questions. And I hope you may have brought some. The important thing is community. And I think, Rhonda really stresses that, or really emphasizes community. I've been thinking about community ever since I started my company almost 22 years ago, and whether I'm in the Maryland suburbs of Washington D.C., but I grew up in Pittsburgh. I worked in radio in Pittsburgh and in Florida, and so I've always thought of what do we do to engage our audience, show a really authentic connection to the community, and be consistent in what we're doing, what we're saying. So when I think in terms of what you can get the most out, in my opinion, professionally speaking, of Earth Gives Day, is community among you guys, as peers, as well as the individual focuses that, the missions that you're on. Being really mission driven is really key to everything that I do, and that my company's been doing for all these years. And what I think about is giving you really concrete concepts that you can do yourself. And not only can you do them yourself, but I am happy to be a sounding board to you. I'm going to put in the chat my email and my LinkedIn, and no obligation, but you can feel very comfortable, very confident to reach out to me before, during, and after, almost 23 hours a day, whatever it takes, and I'll get back to you. But I'd love to continue the conversation. What's really important to me is that you have so many of you, some of you are wearing multiple hats. And I think when it comes down to communications and positioning, and whether it's podcasts or radio or television or local reporters or whoever you want to appeal to, and certainly getting traction for your messages is ever more abundantly competitive these days. What I want to make sure is that you're doing things that hit on three, in any order, three major themes. One, your message has to have really news relevance. It's got to be newsworthy. You're talking to someone who will tell you straight out, straight away, what a reporter will and won't respond to. And so I think that your news relevance, your urgency, and your calls to action calls to act are tremendously important. And I think if you think think of it as a triangle. It doesn't matter which point on the triangle you're putting up front, second, or third position. They're all equally important. And I think if you look at what you want to drive about your participation in Earth Gives Day, it's going to be, well, and I'll also speak from my perspective. I have, for more than 20 years, been a real climate hawk. And if you think of things, if you see things through the lens of climate protection, preparedness, think of what the folks in North Carolina and Georgia endured almost a year ago this September with the hurricanes and flooding. They were so far inland, they had no idea. No one thought that would come to them. I have a client and author who's a landscape photographer who lives in Western North Carolina, and it just was really struck by what he encountered and what a lot of his neighbors persevered through. So as well, I think the work we've done on endangered rivers, protecting federal standards for public lands, even regenerative agriculture, looking at sustainable farming and things like that. So if you're looking at plastics, you're looking at environmental justice, all these things you can connect with through a bigger opportunity to tie in locally. And one of our slides here, you'll also see a number of, and there are more, a number of environmental observations, observances that are key to aligning your message and your fundraising this fall. And it may be any of these that you'll see in a moment, but the important thing is that you understand who the audience is and really how you can address local podcasters, reporters, producers, anyone that can help you to move the needle and engage with your target audience. A lot of times, and you know this already, that what you may be talking about to one audience that possibly has a particular connection to labor, or has a connection to faith leaders in the community, or environmental activism, and such. There are ways that you can really get this ball rolling by packaging and sharing what it is you want people to do. And I think that if it is that urgency, it's really why we're talking about this now. And I think all these things, if you think about it, are intertwined. They're hardwired to Earth Gives Day, because you're bringing this to a head, whether it's on one day or over a 2-week period, or however you're positioning this. You have news relevance, you have an urgent tie into your fundraising, and there's a call to action, a call to act and engage and maintain and keep that loyalty and that connection to the community, which we all agree through whichever lenses you're using, and the work that you're doing on, say, environmental justice or otherwise. Everything that you do going through this portal is going to be a richer experience for your local community, and for the community, again, here comes that word again, that we're all participating in, that we're all subscribed to. So basically, I think that some of these tips of how to position this, or how to write this, or how to prepare to communicate, we can get to in the future. What I care about is that you look at how the media perceive what you have to offer, and they see you as different, they see you as timely, they see you as relevant. And the validation, the authenticity is better maybe than the validation. The authenticity that you bring locally is, I am, a third generation Montanan, or I've lived in Colorado ever since college and I'm here 20 years, or I'm raising a family here. And these things you might not think are really all that relevant until you realize that you can't separate you from the mission of what you're doing. And I think that if you work that into the conversation, there isn't a question that a reporter or producer can ask where you can't, preempt that by saying, well, by the way, I've lived here a long time, or I grew up around here, or when we talk about the Land and Water Conservation Fund or other things that are important to our community, it's really key to know that I didn't just show up. I'm a part of this community. Maybe I coach Little League Baseball or my daughter's soccer or whatever it is. The importance is that there's real connection, there's real authenticity to what you're doing to raise funds, to act on climate change, and to protect the communities that you work in and that you live in.
Eric,
Yes, ma'am.
if I might connect this to something I said,
Please.
The local relevance, if you have, like at the top, I talked about what's happening in my state. If you connect it to something that's happening in your state, maybe there's a heat wave, maybe, there's some wildfires, whatever there may be. There's things that are going on that you can connect it to, and that this is a community of people who are coming together to actually do something about it. And when it comes to very specific things, we will provide you with press releases. Don't just send it to anyone, send it to very specific things. And there's pretty easy ways to find who those are. You go to the media websites and you find folks who are covering the environment or climate, or you DM them and say, hey, I've got a story. Can I email you something more robust? Or maybe you just send a pitch in an email and it's not actually a press release, because media are doing things very different these days. And then when it comes to podcasts or TV, if you if you need us to engage, if you need Earth Gives to be part of that, to be the second interview, we're open and able. If, or if you've got other see other nonprofits participating that you think can add to the print story. Have the reporter interview somebody else, because it illustrates the fact that this is about, we're all in this together, and there's many organizations that are the last front lines, in this fight to do what we can, and to understand, is this a very local story? Is this a state story? Is this potentially a national story that you can tie into, are some of the things that you might want to think about.
Yeah, these are real world examples. These are compelling opportunities to appeal to community leaders, to government elected officials, business partners, and others. Whether it's your community or whether it's your church, or however you're positioned. And I think when one thing that should not be uh, dismissed is the power of a really compelling elevator speech, something that you could get into an elevator and get out of within 30 or 40 seconds, and actually be able to share what it is that Earth Gives Day really means to the work you do, with or without an elevator. So let's say you're working in clean water, or you're working in environmental justice, or maybe you work on local lands protection, or you're protesting a pipeline, or something that's really egregious in your neighborhood that you are not only committed to, but you're so invested in, and certainly immersed in, that it's important that what you say and how you position it is something that can come off the tip of your tongue, and you don't feel tongue tied. Every dollar we raise really funds these local projects that remove contaminants from our local streams. These are things that you can work into a conversation, or into an elevator speech, as I called it, where you can talk about using this day to raise awareness, and create a demand for safe air and clean water, and safe housing, and equitable climate solutions, and maybe even electrification, expansion of the grid, things of that nature, that may be really a frontline opportunity for you, and maybe your elected officials and such. So some of what you have in your various elevator speeches might vary, depending upon who you're talking to. But if you talk about the fact that we have this shared inheritance, we have this American commitment to each other, to a community that's going to be healthy, sustainable, something that our kids are going to not look at us in 15 or 20 years, maybe even in 10 years, and say, what were you thinking when I was little? Here you could say, we were a part of this together. So I think if you're working on cleaning up a river, or you're looking at the importance of taking a nature walk with your kids, and realizing that beside the sticks and twigs and leaves that you pick up this fall, we did that all the time when my kids were little. They also see pollution, they see dumping, they see signs that are a little hard to digest, because they don't understand. Why do you need a sign that says that this is toxic, this is dangerous? And so I think being able to be really relatable and convey that to people in a simple, straightforward elevator speech, depending upon who you're talking to, can really go a long way, and help you to be prepared, whether you're the comms person, or whether you're, I would say, quote, just the fundraiser, or just the database manager. The importance is that there's continuity between what you're doing on the front lines, and what the forward-facing objectives are, and the mission of the organization. So I want to
Eric,
wrap
I
up, and
I
I
have a
want to wrap
thought
up.
on,
Go ahead.
yeah, I have a thought on that. So when it comes to pitches, let's say there's a monthly community paper that comes out. It's going to be hard to get something in there right now. Well, you could actually pitch maybe this week and next week, because their deadline would be coming up, and then you'd be in there for September. But you could
Hmm.
definitely pitch a story for October. And here's the thing, media, and I'm a former journalist and PR person as well. So media are strapped, and newsrooms are struggling. And then there's this whole force of people in climate media coverage that are trying to get more space and time and effort to have their information shared, but they're doing it on social media, and or they're small community papers that will take what you contribute, so you can write your own story. about being part of this national initiative, and even bring in some quotes from you, some quotes maybe from your volunteers or others, because a lot of media, I mean, it's 24/7 now on all kinds of platforms. And so they're thirsting for options for you to serve up to them. When I do PR, I call it babysitting a little bit, because you have to stay on top of people. You can't really wait. You can tease them out now. This thing is coming up. We're being a part of it. We wanted you to know, we'd love you to consider doing a story sometime in September, like late
Yeah.
September.
See, the beauty of that, Rhonda, is that a lot of times now, even the weeklies or the bi-monthlies and the monthlies are so much faster turnaround because their digital editions are putting out content,
Right.
sometimes 24/7, if not sometimes the next day. So it's a lot quicker necessarily than it was when I was cutting my teeth in radio news back in the dark ages. So when I think in terms of what you're all doing, this is maybe a great place to wrap it up and welcome your questions. What we do is really important to all of us. Why we do it is more meaningful to everyone you're going to talk to. And so I think whether it's an elevator speech or whether it is a note that you're dropping into your boss's mailbox or whatever it is, realize the why. And here's a great list of whys. On the environmental observances, and there are plenty others that I can connect you to. But think about what any of these might mean to you and your community, and how that experience might be different through the lens of Hispanic Heritage Month or Indigenous Peoples Day or anything else is this fall. There are a number of things that this is part, not to be technical, but just to leave it with this. This is part of what we would call an editorial calendar. And if you look at having a reason, having a purpose, having a why we're talking about this every month or every quarter or half a year, or however you structure it, you'll see that you've got enough reasons for what you're doing. But now this is going to refine some of that to a specific why. And so I think if you're looking at Climate Week in New York City or other things that are upcoming, there's some meaningful ways to position this stuff. And I welcome your questions. I'm thrilled to have the chance to talk to each of you here. And I really hope that I can see some smiling faces, because anyone who's willing to answer a question has the guilt-ridden obligation to show me your face, because I see Lyndon's first name and Morgan's first name, and I'd love to see your smile. But anyway,
And
Stephanie, I
they're
see
all
yours.
awesome people.
And
Yeah.
Gwen, I see you, and I feel like I won't talk about a certain television program as a kid where the woman would look into the romper room thing, and we don't have to go there. But the important thing is that I'm see, now we know. If you know,
You're
you know.
aging yourself,
Oh
Eric.
God, I apologize. The importance is we're here. This community, this call, this meeting may end soon. We don't go away. And if you need something, drop me a line, and I'm happy to tell you what I know or how to find something. And I'm delighted to talk to you. So thank you so much for hearing me out, and I hope that your Earth Gives Day experience is a rich one.
Awesome. That's great. So I guess I would just go back real quick. Thank you, Eric. That was wonderful. And he is happy to take your emails, eric@kaplancommunications.com, which is very, very generous for a professional in this business. If you haven't registered yet, here's a QR code to take you there. But mostly we just want to thank you for being here and for listening in and considering some of these ideas. I hope that they were helpful. But now we get into your questions, and this is about workshopping ideas for you and for others, and see what we can do together. So you don't even have to raise your hand; just speak up, ask.
Not everybody at once.
All right, I'll take first shot. So I think a lot of times for nonprofits, our strengths are in the work that we do and not always communication. And so I guess I'm wondering if that is what you see when you look at nonprofits and fundraising. Is it Is it often just what you described, which is what are we doing, but more importantly, why are we doing it, and how to actively communicate that, and who to get that to so that the message gets out there?
I think you're right. It is the latter. It is why we're doing this, and how to find the most appropriate place to say that. Um, I think, and this is, just from doing it for many years. Um, People in the press, reporters you might see on TV or you listen to on radio or in a podcast, most everybody, most everyone is accessible more than ever. And if you look up their LinkedIn profile, if you look up the reporter or the producer's, um, you know, social media, you're going to see how to connect them, or how to tweet at them, or how to go on Blue Sky or whatever, and find how to reach these. In fact, you can even get on, on a chat GPT and say something like contact so and so who works at this television station, and there's a chance maybe to be able to find out professionally how to contact them, and then prepare yourself to actually get the answer you want. A lot of times, people felt for a long time, hey, I can't afford a database, or don't know how, I don't have a real ongoing relationship with this news director or this reporter that I listen to on, on the news station, WTOP here in Washington, D.C. But people are much more accessible than they've ever been. And I think if you go and send someone a request to connect over LinkedIn, you might say, hey, I really enjoy you might not say, hey, but I really enjoy your reporting. And we're doing this. I didn't know how to find you elsewhere, another way. So I'd love to share this information with you. And so you'd be surprised how paying a compliment for someone's, reporting in the community, or that I wouldn't say grew up listening to them, but you know how that is. And you might say, you might be surprised at how warm a response might be. And it may be a matter of understanding, who do they reach that's important to you? Is there a newsletter? Is there a podcast? Is there something that deals with my community here in my county, in Montgomery County, Maryland, that might be really germane, really specific? So to answer your question, I think, yes, it is truly why we're engaged, and why now, and where was the baseline that was set, or the old standard, because we're trying to improve conditions, we're trying to improve each other's lives. A lot of folks might say, hey, we don't have a community. Well, yeah, we do. We actually do. And when we're here for you, and we're here to really move the ball forward. And when it
And
comes
Eric,
to
to something that you
protections.
said, is it
Yep.
doesn't even have to be a climate reporter. It can be just a general reporter, because as they say, every story is a climate story. There's some
Mhm.
connection you can make. And Stephanie, you're so on point. The research that I saw when I was first thinking about this concept is the number one reason people don't give to environmental nonprofits, or why the funding is so low, is it's hard to tell our story, right? It's very diverse. The impact isn't necessarily right now. It's not like, it's not like I'm feeding a kid, or I'm filling a backpack for them to be able to go to school. It's that I'm planting a tree for somebody to have shade years from now, or I'm cleaning
Mhm.
up a river, but okay, so it was dirty and then now it's clean for your use, so it's harder to tell the story.
What I found, speaking of the why, if you have trouble thinking of the why, remember this story. 2 years back, we're working with the National Parks Conservation Association, and the importance was that there was going to be funding that might be cut back to our national parks. So I said, "Oh, that's really bad. What do you have statewide that will give us sort of a storyline to work with?" And they said, "Well, um, we think this is important news. Some national parks, for every dollar invested, maybe $2 or $3 comes back." And I said, well, that the multiplier effect on that could be pretty good. Oh, you have no idea. And I said, well, which example is better than that? And she says, well, uh, the forgive me, the Smoky Mountains national parks, for every dollar that's invested in economic support, produces $17. And this is going back before COVID. So if you think about the why really does, the return on investment. Think of it this way. A local reporter might also be a local business reporter who writes about jobs in the economy. And these things are all connected. They may not be a perfect fit every time, but that's where, you live and learn, you work and you figure out you can navigate this, or maybe I can help you find someone that you're looking for. The important thing is that what you have to say has an audience, and there's a real mission behind this. And we hope that much of what we're sharing today helps you to close the gap between your funding and the forward-facing awareness that you can create about it.
Hey, there are some questions in the chat, but go ahead, Lyndon.
Hey, thanks. Nice to see everybody. Eric, I got a question for you about a worry that I have sometimes when I reach out to
Sure.
press. And I wonder if you can let me know if it is an unfounded worry. So sometimes, if I want to connect with a press member, I might reach out to them after they do a story on climate or environment, say, I love this reporting. I love the reporting you're doing and the work you're doing to bring national attention to this particular issue. But there's this nagging worry in the back of my head that I might be doing the opposite of that I'm putting that reporter at risk of their editor coming in and saying, hey, you're cozying up too much with the nonprofit world. So it'd be like the opposite of cozying up too much with industry. Is that completely
Yeah.
unfounded? Or
It's not
I
unfounded.
don't want their inbox to show
Right.
it.
I want you to think of it this way. There are two ways to address that, and they're very quick. One is that for decades, I have witnessed industry folks handing over talking points to reporters that media just printed, or they just ran with it. So the ethical issue here is not a challenge for you, but it is breaking through the noise. So I think there are a lot of usual suspects that show up with really either policy rich, or they can be really daunting figures that seem to stiff arm community activists and environmental or even science angles because the industry says X. And they've been getting a free run unchallenged for decades. The other way of looking at this is that you are building relationships and they know that. And when it comes to, there's a different side to the issue. It's powerful. But let me give you the perfect, I think, one of the most recent but perfect examples of this. If you're familiar with where the Berkshires are in Western Massachusetts, it's an idyllic, beautiful area, and the Housatonic River runs through there, and it's just gorgeous. But what happens, say, in Boston versus what happens way out in Western Massachusetts is equally relevant, but doesn't get much pickup. We're working over the last 10 months. We've been working with the town of Lee because they have a lawsuit and a number of other things against GE for dumping for decades PCBs in the Housatonic River. People know you can't swim, or you shouldn't. You can't eat any of the fish that come out of it because they're laden with PCBs, forever chemicals. It's horrible. So one of my colleagues and I were having a conversation, and I said, we have this big Save the Housatonic Day in Fenwick Hall in Boston back in February of this year. And I said, we really got to double down and try to get some attention from the Boston Globe. And my colleague said, yeah, but Boston Globe has seen it all and read it all and reported it all before. What's new here? And we returned, and the reality was that there was a younger reporter who said, this is really important information. I want to learn more about this. My colleague, my editor has told me that we've done a ton of reporting on this, but I didn't. And the more she looked into it, bottom line, she came to our event. And so this is about chipping away, I think, at some media norms where a lot of grizzled broadcast veterans and other reporters have seen it all and done it all before. But there's a new generation of folks out there that are asking important questions. So the one is, look at it. The industry's really been flooding the zone with a lot of half-truths or misinformation and greenwashing for a long time. And so you shouldn't feel guilty about telling them how it is from your perspective and the science behind what you're saying, as well as realize that there are other angles to the story that may be really important. And one in particular that really took hold that I think you'll appreciate, Lyndon, was last October every year. October 18th is the anniversary of the Clean Water Act. We got a local television station to go from Albany, New York, and drive 50 miles to our anniversary of the Clean Water Act event day on the Housatonic River. Drove nearly an hour to be a part, and brought a television camera, day of decision, to report on this story that I'm telling you about. So, there are folks that are really willing to take the chance and learn about it. And so I don't think you should be deterred or dissuaded from that.
Yeah, and you always need visuals. So you might have seen that in one of the slides, but it's really important when you're pitching something with visuals like TV, you need to understand like what are they going to see? What visuals you have B-roll, which is just video and or photos that they can also use that they might want to use. I wanted to get into a couple questions on the chat. So the average payout for Green Them All, that's hard to say because it's kind of a new feature, and frankly, we're new. We're still in startup mode. Think of the days when your organization started up and what that might have looked like if you were around at the time. So we're still in startup mode. We know that 1 year it offset your registration fees. So that's where it goes. So it's hard to say because every year is different. We're still small and super scrappy, and we're trying to, it's like the chicken and the egg. Will you come? So the others will come. If we can't get you, we can't get the others. And it's not about we, it's about you. It's about all of us. Is the we. So I don't mean to be evasive on some of these answers, but that's the reality of what we're facing. Yes, we'll make the recording available. I don't have data visibility on foot traffic because then that again goes to what are we doing? What are you all doing? What are peer-to-peer fundraisers doing? What does that look like on any given time? So we are the only nationwide giving day, the only giving day focused specifically on environmental and climate issues. And so that's, we're trying something new here, and we're using a technology that has worked and a concept that has worked, but we're focused in a different way. And so our experimentation is with and because of you. I don't mean to be avoiding that. I just mean to be saying we're still super new and trying things out. Questions, ideas, needs to workshop. Did you get what you needed? How many nonprofits have you hosted in previous years? 120 some odd organizations, from everything from Project Drawdown, the well-known folks, to very local tree planting organizations, broader organizations like SRAG, the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group, that can get Rotarians from all over the world coming to the site and donating. So it goes to that network effect idea of people discovering, and our messaging isn't about going to a favorite nonprofit. It's about coming in, find the one that you're familiar with, invest, but also check out others, discover the others that you can give to. So it's a shopping cart sort of experience for the donor. What else?
I really like the idea of going out to businesses, because I was thinking, we have a pretty big Giving Tuesday thing that we do, as well as kind of end of year. And so it's a little hard for, our donor base to get a lot of emails. So of course I'd want to send them emails about save the date. This, one of our members is going to be speaking. This is what's going on. So kind of the basic things, but it's harder to do the countdown directly. So kind of finding other populations to do that with, I think is a great idea. So kind of just getting out there,
Yeah.
and, trying to get participation from some of the people that you're connected with, but not normally pushing for participation, right? So,
That's a great
and
idea,
then of
Gwen. I
course
mean, like I said, there
mentioning
is
it.
no one size fits all, that's
Mhm.
why we're here to kind of workshop stuff. And Gwen, in your situation, were you on the last webinar? Can't remember.
No, I wasn't there. No.
So Michael Chasnow from Climate Voice, they participated, he spoke, and he talked about how they use Earth Gives, and he called it a gateway to Giving
Mhm.
Tuesday and end of year giving.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And so I loved, and I had no idea that they use it as that way, but they bring in donations, and it's kind of this like multiple touches through the time. And he mentioned that some of their donors, just like giving through the platform, they got a $5,000 donation on the last day of the year through the platform. So we leave it up, it's there. People maybe who have given, familiar with it, they come back. What can I do end of year? And you receive that donation.
Great. Did you send out the webinar, the recording of
I
that?
don't
I'd
think
be
I sent it
curious.
out. So I wear many, 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 many hats.
I know.
And I am treading water really fast, to be honest with
Mhm.
you all. And it is up on the website though.
Okay, great.
It's there
Okay.
under like events or key dates. I think it is up there.
Yeah.
That's where you can find it.
Great. I'd love to see that because I'm trying to look at how to integrate the whole. It's obviously a busy time from now till the end of the year for many reasons, right? So,
Yeah.
and there's the obvious places to kind of promote it. And I'm assuming you have messaging about Earth Gives being important because of some wording about the percentage of people giving to. Because I think I can, kind of throw that into our newsletters and
Yeah, we
stuff
had a
on the
whole
bottom.
ad.
Join Earth Gives,
Yeah, we had a whole
yeah.
ad last time. I mean, you could go to get a quote from John Doerr, who funded more than $1 billion, I think, to the Stanford Sustainability School.
Mhm.
And he says he wrote a book called Speed and Scale, and he specifically says 2%, it's not enough. More people need to be involved. The Patagonia CEO, who I saw at South by Southwest a couple of years ago, when Katie Couric asked him, what are you most worried about? And he was talking about climate change and other things. He said apathy.
Mhm.
And so, as you well know, and if you don't know, definitely check out Yale Climate Communications. They've got incredible resources and research about messaging and how there are the very concerned. And there's this huge percentage of people who are alarmed or very concerned, but aren't doing anything. And they are ripe for us to invite them in to participate in something like this. And by
Exciting.
the
We'll
way, for
get it.
some of
Yeah.
you at big events and you get high dollar donors, this is for the individual donor. So all those people who can't attend your event, there's all these all this other money and opportunity to ask, still sitting on the table.
And it's a great
Thanks,
stewardship
Jessica.
time, I think, as well, for example, with our speaker, just to say, hey, a member of our team is speaking about this, please join.
Yes.
The point, yeah. So
If you don't know, Gwen is speaking, her group is speaking on the 24th on plastics and toxins, along with someone from the Rachel Carson Council that I need to introduce you to.
some from the Center for Environmental Health. I should have put that on my little
Center for
tag,
the
but
Environment.
yeah.
Any other questions, workshop ideas? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Great to be
Thank
with
you.
you all. Thank
We're
you.
happy to stay. I'm going to stay on if you want to dig into some solutions for you specifically, but thank you all for coming.
Thank you.